In this video, we're going to look at some basic operations of Inkscape and how to get around Inkscape so that you can make the things that you need to. So let's get right to it. On the left hand side, we've got our toolbar. On the top, we've got all of our tools to save and some really special features which we'll talk about later. And on the right side, I'm not going to do anything in this video with those. We can come to those in a later video someday. So let's go to our normal shapes, which would be a square or a rectangle. Now as you draw, you will see that I can make the shape anything I want to. As soon as I press Control on my keyboard, I force this shape into a square. That's really useful if you need absolute exact squares or exact circles. Let go of that, click back on the black arrow, click on the shape, you can move it around. Every time you click on the shape, your resize arrows turn into rotation arrows, which is how you can move things around, resize them, and rotate them. You'll notice on the toolbar that I've got some numbers. So if I have an exact measurement, so for example, if I would like this rectangle to be exactly 120 pixels wide, I would just type in 120, press tab to go to the next one, press 120, press enter. Now I have an exact shape measuring exactly what I want it to do. Now if we look at the circle, it's very similar. Draw a circle, I can turn it into an ellipse. If I press Control, I can lock it into a perfect circle there. So that's a really good tip for you, is the Control button will lock the shape in Inkscape to being an exact square and exact circle. That also works when you resize. So when I'm resizing something, I can break it off its normal shape. If on the other hand I press Control, I lock it to being a perfect circle or a perfect square. Again, really useful for resizing not just shapes but whole drawings if you want to keep them proportional to each other. Now let's go into some really useful tools. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a rectangle, and then I'm going to draw a circle, pressing Control. And what I'll do is change the color of the circle by double clicking the fill down in the right, and I'm going to change the color of the circle to a brighter red. Let me close that for a second, and then I'm going to move that right there, not really paying attention to where I am. I just want to show you some very quick operations. So when I now select both, and before we go any further, if you press Alt on your keyboard and then draw, what that allows you to do is choose shapes without having to go all the way around them. So if you press Alt, you can actually just touch the red circle, touch the green square, and it will choose both. Really, really useful. Now what we're going to do is going to go to this menu up here that says Path, and we have a number of different options here. Union will add one shape to another to create one bigger shape. If I now go back to Path and do Difference, you can see that one shape is cut out of another shape. Again, really useful for things that you might have to create in Inkscape. If I go to Path and do Intersection, it will keep only the part that we're touching between the two shapes. Now using just a combination of union, difference and intersection, you can create really quite complicated shapes using just squares and circles and stars and whatever else you need to do. It won't really cover every single shape you ever have to make in Inkscape, but it will cover quite a few of them. Now let's change direction a little bit. Let's copy and paste this and change its color to, let's go to a yellow. Now what I'm going to do is show you some basic operations up on this toolbar over here. What I want to do first of all is move the yellow square behind the red. That would be with the order buttons over here. Move it to the back, move it to the front, move it frontwards, move it backwards. So if you've got a lot of shapes, you can kind of flip your shape going backwards and forwards. So I want it at the back. I'm going to resize it with Control clicked. Now what I really would like to do is make the red and the yellow square perfectly centered in relation to each other. Now I could do this just with my eye. I could also use the numbers up here, but there is a far better and easier way to do this. What I'm going to do is click on the Align button over here. I'm going to click on there. Now on your computer you might get a floating window. On my computer I get a side window, if you like. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to choose both shapes, and if you have a look at all of our options over here, we can align something so that their left hand sides are matching, their right hand sides are matching, or equally we can do bottom and top. But in this case, what I want to do is match the center vertically and horizontally, like so. Now I'm absolutely confident that those two shapes are exactly in line with each other as far as their centers are concerned. Now if I was to add a new shape over here, and let's make this green, close that window for a second, and now what I want to do is align the yellow and the green. I can match, of course, their left hand side. Now you can see that it's messed up my red and yellow circle combination. So let's go back and learn something. So if I'm happy with that alignment, I'm going to go and choose both of them, go to Object and Group. Now that way, the red and the yellow can't be messed up now. Again, let's choose everything and match their left or their centers or their right. Now if there's one thing that can ruin a good design, that would be not aligning your things either to your left, rights, tops, and mostly the centers. So if there's one thing that you're going to learn from this video is don't just throw things on the screen. Make sure that you are aligning them properly so that they look professional. Okay, so where have we got so far? In summary, what we've done so far is learn how to draw shapes, learn how to keep them regular. We've learned how to center, align, left align things. We've learned with our path tools how to join things together and cut things out of other things. Now what I want to do now is to grab two pictures. So I'm going to delete this. I want to grab two pictures and basically recreate them on the screen, showing you how to use the tools that we just have, and also introduce you to a brand new tool, which is the pen tool, one of my favorites. And here we have a logo that you can see in actually many logos. Captain America, Target from America. So I'm not really going to copy the logo. What I want to do is discuss how this logo was made. Now, when you look at it, you've got a red circle, a white circle, and a red circle. So we could just make it out of three circles. So let's do that. Let's start with our regular circle in the middle. Let's set that color to red. Let's make it a little bit darker, at least, to match the logo. We could then very well create another circle, keeping Control pressed, and make that white. We can send that to the back by clicking on the black arrow and sending it to the back. And there we have it. I know it doesn't look like a circle because it's white. So therefore I'm going to copy and paste a new circle and put that back to red. Now, and there we go. I know it doesn't match exactly, but that's not so important for me right now. And let's move that to the back. You can see there's a white circle in there. Let me just click on that. Pressing Control, let's make it a little bit smaller. Like so. I still think that's a bit big, so let's make it smaller still. And we've got the red circle at the back, and I think that could be a little bit bigger. Now, obviously, spending the next 10 minutes aligning them is just a waste of everyone's time. So let's select everything. Go back to our Align button. Let me close the color button down and Align Center and Align Center. And there we have, not exactly, but a really good reproduction of the Target logo from there to there. And it works really well. Now, the only problem with this is I've got three circles. So if I now try to modify this outer circle, it's going to really mess up because there's a white circle in between. So what my vote would be is to select them both again, align them center and center, and this time using the Path and Difference tool, actually cut the white circle out of the big red circle. The result is the same, but what I'll find is later on, if I have to modify that outer circle in any way, I can do it now really confidently. And there we have the same logo made with circles and the Difference tool from the Path menu. Really, really easy and really fast to do. And here we have quite possibly one of the most well-known logos in the world, the Nike logo. And to make this, you really need, if you look at it, two curvy lines. Now, if you look very carefully at this, this logo cannot be made with a square or a circle. So, it might be tempting to just draw, a rather large circle and then black arrow, copy and paste that. make that a little bit bigger. So I'm just thinking out loud here. Let's change its color slightly. Let's move it to the back. And can we create a Nike logo out of this? Excuse me while my Inkscape just goes mad. Yeah, could we create a logo out of this? The Nike logo. Let me pull that back on. Get rid of the colors. Bring the logo down. Let's have a look. Could we recreate this with just a... Yeah, it's not... Yeah, you see, we could try. Let's try that and just try one of our path and difference tools. Yeah, in the end, yeah, it's like a Nike logo that's had a bad day, isn't it? So yeah, we could, I suppose, spend the next half an hour trying to make that. But you can see the problems that we have is the Nike logo has a really straight kind of dash there, although it has a very curvy thing there. So yes, we could try to create it with circles and squares, but really we're wasting our time, and there is a tool that does it better. So let's just bring this over here. Let's keep that there so we kind of get an idea of where we were heading. Not quite there yet. So what I'm going to introduce to you is the pen tool, if you've not already used it, which is down here. I'm going to click on that. Now what happens with the pen tool is if you just click, you get straight lines, so you can, you know, create some very cartoony pictures like so. That's fantastic. That's not really what we're after. So what we're going to use is a feature of the pen tool, which is my favorite thing, which is if you click and then drag, your straight line turns into a curvy line. Now this takes quite a lot of practice to get used to, in that you have to click, drag, and kind of make your curves as you go along. Now this can be really confusing. Now you'll have to believe me when I say I've never tried to make a Nike logo before, so I'm going to go for it just freehand right now. Now what I'm going to do is first of all I'm going to change the color of my stroke if I can. Let's have a look. Let's just draw a line. I think I want to turn it red so that the next time I draw it I can actually see what I'm doing. And let's have a go. So what I'm going to do is, using the pen tool, I'm going to start at the top over here, and I'm going to just click, go to the end of the curve, very carefully just drag until my curve matches, then go to the end over here. Yeah, that's gone wrong, but that's all right. I can fix that in just 1 second. I'm going to go back to the inside of the curve, try my best to get it, and then finally finish off there. Now you can see my line is not red, so let's very quickly go and change the line to red. And in fact, while I'm here, I'm just going to make the line a little bit thicker, just actually to make it easier for you guys to see. Now, if I click on the black arrow, I can move the Nike logo around, or I can move my line around. That's not what I want to do. I actually want to edit my line before I move it around. So what I'm going to do is, underneath the black arrow is kind of like a point editing tool that edits all these little points that I made out of my line. The first thing I'm going to fix is the end of the Nike logo, because that really looks wrong. So what I'm going to do is put the point right at the end there, grab this marker over here, and I'm just going to pull it in. And the same thing here, I'm going to take this marker and I'm going to pull it in, like so. Now you can see already what an improvement that is. That almost looks like the finished article. Now I've just got to finish a few details off. So let's move the point to where it belongs. And what you'll find is, using these points, I should be able to get something close. And if I just move it around a bit, it's a little bit of patience. This is not the time to rush. You can see I've almost got it. Now you can see that while I'm doing this, it's getting impossible for me to make these curves. Now at this point, it's really quite a good idea to add a new point. So what I'm going to do is go up here, click, and I'm going to add a new point between this one here and this one here. So I'm going to add a new point. There's my point. Let me just undo that. I'm now going to select this point here, and I'm going to move these markers until that Nike symbol does what I want it to do. Now this really does take a little bit of patience, and it's kind of tempting to just pull and push everything, but it's worth taking your time, an extra couple of minutes. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to select that point, press Shift on my keyboard, click that point and click on the plus button and get a brand new point inside. Now what you'll notice is when I take this point, I'm able to edit the curve a little bit better. Just move this around a bit. You can see I've almost got it. Don't want to rush it too much, like so. And if I stop there, you can see I've made a little bit of a mistake here. You can just see that it's not quite fat enough there. Actually, I'm quite happy with that. Let's get rid of the Nike logo, put my Nike logo underneath it. Let's delete that little test I did. Just zoom out slightly. And what we could do is bring back my colors, bring back my fill that red, and actually I'm going to take the stroke away because Nike never put an outline on their logo if they can help it. Now side by side you can see that is a pretty good recreation. It's not exact, could spend a few more minutes fixing that, but to summarize everything we've learned so far, we have learned about shapes, regular shapes, we've learned about the path tools, how to cut out things, we have learned how to cut circles out of circles, we've used the align tools which are vital here, and then finally finishing off we have used our pen tool to recreate something that wasn't able to be produced using just circles and squares. So the only thing I can recommend that you do is open up Inkscape and really have a practice with all the tools and get really comfortable using your squares, your circles, your path tools and your pen tools.